Thank you.
Hey.
Thank you. When we look at nature, there's so many other species that have senses that we humans don't have. So as a child, I was really interested and fascinated about the whole range of senses that exist in nature, but that we humans don't have. So I was interested in extending my perception of reality, and I was particularly interested in the color, because I couldn't see color, so I was interested in extending my perception of color, but extending it beyond the human range. Colors, visual range is just from red to violet for humans, but there's many, many more colors that exist that we cannot sense. So I was interested in creating some kind of new sensory organ that would allow me to extend my perception of reality. I was not interested in creating a tool. I was not interested in creating a wearable device. I was interested in creating a new sensory organ. So I didn't want to use technology. I wanted to become technology. So my aim was to create a new organ. And then when I looked at nature, I saw that there's many organs, but I was particularly interested in antennas. There's many species that have antennas for sensory reasons. So I was interested in creating a human antenna that would be implanted in my head so I could extend my perception of color beyond the human range. So when I designed the antenna, I went to the doctor and I said I wanted an antenna implant. And he said, sorry, we don't do this here. If you want to have an antenna implant, you'll have to convince a bioethical committee. So I presented the surgery to a bioethical committee, and they said no, that it was not ethical to have an antenna implanted in my head for three main reasons. One, because it's not ethical for them to go beyond the human perception. Also because it was not ethical to have a new body part. It's ethical for them to regenerate pre-existing body parts. And also they were extremely worried about the image the hospital would have if someone came out with an antenna sticking out of the head. So they said no to the surgery. But then I tried to find a doctor willing to do the surgery anonymously. And in the end, I found one. So we did the surgery. My head was basically drilled. We had 4 different implants. 2 is the antenna structure. 1 is a chip that vibrates depending on the light frequencies around me. So if there's the red color, this frequency of red goes into my skull and it vibrates. Depending on the red, the vibration is higher or lower. So each color creates a vibration in my skull that then becomes a sound to my inner ear. So I can actually hear the frequencies of colors. Also, it goes beyond the visual spectrum. It picks up infrareds and ultraviolets. So if I go to a shop, I can tell if the alarms are on or off. So if I sense infrared, it means they're on. In most cases, they're off, so it's interesting to know this. Also, ultraviolet allows me to detect if it's a good day or a bad day to sunbathe. If I sense that there's a high level of ultraviolet, I just skip the sun or I put some extra sun cream. So my aim is to continuously extend the perception of color. And then the 4th implant is internet connection. So I can also receive colors from external devices. So there's people that can send colors to my head. Now there's 5 people in the world that have permission to send colors to my head. So if there's a beautiful sunset in Australia, my friend from Melbourne can stream live images from his mobile phone to my head. So I could be here, but I could suddenly be sensing colors from Australia. Or if they start sending colors at night and I'm sleeping, they either wake me up or they can actually color my dreams. So if someone starts sending blue colors at night and I'm sleeping, then my dream suddenly becomes blue. Or I suddenly go to the sea, or I look at the sky. So my friends can actually influence my dreams, or they can color my dreams. I call this the use of the internet as a sense. I think we'll start seeing much more of this in the 2020s, internet of senses, where we can start extending our perception by the use of the internet as a sensory extension. My brain has changed now. This is an MRI of my brain. It has created a new sense. The union between the software and my brain have created the sonochromatic sense, where color is sound and sound is color. And I had a situation with the UK government because I identify myself as a cyborg because I feel no difference between the software and my brain anymore, and I feel that this is a new body part. So in 2004, they said that there was a problem with my passport because it says that electronic equipment is not allowed on passport photos. So I replied saying that what they were saying is not an electronic device, but a new body part, an extension of my senses, that I felt that I was a cyborg. They replied saying no, that I should hide the antenna. And then this became a small battle. In the end, they accepted me to appear in 2004 with the first prototype of the antenna. Now I'm also in discussions with the Swedish government because the material I used to create the antenna is Swedish, so I'm telling them that I am Swedish, so I should be entitled to become Swedish as well. So hopefully, in a few years, there'll also be a point here that if you have a Swedish body part, you should also be entitled to become Swedish. If you have also, for example, a Chinese heart, you've had a heart transplant, if you had a Chinese heart for maybe 10 years, I think you should also be entitled to apply for Chinese citizenship if you feel Chinese. So this is now in discussions with the Swedish government. My life has changed in many ways because now I hear colors, so I can compose music by looking at things. This is a musical composition simply of different colors that, depending on how I look at them, I can compose music. So for me now, walking around a supermarket has changed a lot. It's like going to a nightclub because there's so many colors in a supermarket that I hear many melodies, especially the aisles with cleaning products. That's the most exciting area of a supermarket because there's unexpected colors, there's a lot of saturation, and you can hear many different types of music. It's not only supermarkets, it's also visual art. I can now listen to a Picasso, I can listen to an Andy Warhol, because all painters have become composers, so I can literally hear everything that has color. I can also compose music with clothes. This is a tie that sounds like electronic music, so when I wear it, I can listen to electronic music. The longer the tie, the longer the melody, so you can decide how much melody you want to hear. This is the scream. I can literally hear the scream, and when I look at people, I also hear their faces. So I like doing sound portraits, where instead of drawing someone's face, I get close and I write down the sound of the eyes, the lips, the skin, and the hair, and then I send them an MP3 of their face. The first sound portrait that I did was of Prince Charles. I asked him if I could listen to his face, and this was his reaction when I asked him. So everyone sounds different. We all have different colors. So Moby, for example, sounds less because he has no hair. Al Gore has 2 different nodes in his eyes because it's different shades of turquoise, whereas Judi Dench has silent hair. So we all have specific sounds, but what really shocked me is that people who say they're black, they're not black, and people who say they're white, they're not white. People who say they're black, they're very, very, very dark orange, and people who say they're white, they're very, very, very light orange. So the fact that people say that humans are black and white is completely false. We are all orange. One of the latest projects I did last year is I have a tooth missing, so I had it replaced with a small LED inside my tooth. So in case of emergency or total darkness, I can just click, and then I have emergency light in my mouth. So if you have a tooth missing, you could have it replaced with a small LED inside so that we can all have bioluminescence. It's something that many species have. They can create light in total darkness. Also, we created 2 teeth, one with a friend of mine and me. Moon has a tooth. Then whenever she clicks, I receive a vibration in my mouth, and whenever I click, she receives a vibration in her mouth. We presented this last year in Sao Paulo. We call it transdental communication system because we can communicate from tooth to tooth. We both know the Morse code, so depending on the rhythm, we can actually communicate and send words to each other wherever we are in the world. It works through Bluetooth, so it connects to the mobile phone, from the mobile phone to the tooth, so it's actually Bluetooth-tooth communication that allows you to communicate. We also created the seismic sense, which is inside Moon Riva's body. Whenever there's an earthquake in the world, her body vibrates. She's now in New York, but if there's an earthquake in Japan, her body will feel a vibration. So she's constantly feeling the movements of the earth. She calls it the seismic sense. And she feels she now has like 2 heartbeats, her own heartbeat and the earth beat. So this connects her to Earth in a way that it didn't before. I also use my internet connection to connect to NASA's International Space Station. So this allows me to feel the colors from space. When I do this, my sense of color is out of this planet. Also, Moon can use her seismic sensor to feel the moonquakes. So we call this becoming sensstronauts, where instead of physically going to space, we can send our senses to space and feel space without having to physically go there. So I think in the 2020s, we'll see much more space explorations, where instead of physically going there, we'll simply send our senses there. Basically, just to end this introduction, I think that becoming a cyborg can actually bring us closer to nature in ways that it didn't before. I now feel much closer to other species because I share senses with them that I didn't before. So if I see my cat staring at the wall and there's infrared in the wall, then I know that my cat is staring at the infrared, not at the wall. Or if I see many bees going to a specific flower where there's a high level of ultraviolet, I understand the bees going there because of the high level of ultraviolet. So it connects me with other species in ways that it didn't before. And I think the more senses we have that other species have, the closer we'll feel to other species and to nature itself. So I think that becoming a cyborg does not bring you closer to machines, but it can actually bring you closer to nature and to other animal species. Thank you.